So we had been up here a few times on vacations in the winter. Oddly enough, we would come up here for New Year's, which I think everyone has thought is kind of crazy to do, but we got a feel for the friendliness of everybody in town and just really liked being up here. And so we would just, I think on our own, look, you know, and see if, is there anything up here that would work? And we, like he said, we bought the old appraiser's house, which met our needs perfectly. And I was working remotely until August of this year. There was a position listed at the college for the bookstore coordinator. Forever ago, I worked at a bookstore in college, and I thought, well, that sounds like a fun job to me. I'd like to feel like I'm more engaged and part of the community. So I applied. They also thought I was the right person for the job. So now I am one of the new Minnesota North College Vermillion campus employees. So yeah, I spent a lot of time doing that. I'm about to volunteer at the theater this weekend for their fall show. I'm gonna run the lights for them. And yeah, we love being up here. We're still finding out all the fun things to do, and Lacey puts on all these fun programs for people. So yeah.
Does the college bookstore welcome general public?
Yes, we do. The general public is welcome in the college bookstore. We have lots of lovely merchandise. In case you were unaware, the mascot has had a change. They are now the Vermillion Ironhawks. However you feel about that, if you would like, we do have some Ironhawk merchandise in the store, and also some of the new Minnesota North items. So come on in and see me. I'm always there every morning, 8:30 to 12.
Thank you. The hospital has also brought a bunch of new people to town. And here comes Ann Grader. And she'll tell you what she does.
Thank you, Elton. Wow. A lot more people here than I expected, so this is great.
Don't be scared.
No, I use a lot of presentations for work, so I'm pretty used to this. Anyways, my name's Ann Schrader. I have lived in Ely now since January. Prior to that, I was coming back and forth to Ely for 2 years, every weekend, every other weekend. And in those 2 years, I really started to fall in love with the community. Little bit about myself. I was born and raised in International Falls, Minnesota. So just kind of neighbors, 2 hours here on the Canadian border. Spent quite a bit of my life there, and then from there, I moved to Willmar, Minnesota for about 15 years. And my kids grew up, and I had some life-changing events. I went back up to International Falls for a few years to see my grandkids and to see my mother. And when I was talking to Elton, he said, so tell us why you moved to Ely, why you love Ely. Truth be told, I didn't move here because I loved Ely. I moved here because I fell in love with the guy who lives in Ely. But like I said, we visited one another every weekend back and forth. And it just so happened to be during the pandemic. So I was the girl who didn't get those movie nights, didn't get those dinner date nights because everything was closed. So we just had to spend a lot of time with each other. And we really got to know one another quite well. And in those 2 years, I really got to know Ely quite well. We did all the hiking and the canoe trips and paddleboarding on the lakes, and doing trail hikes and just doing all these outdoor adventures. And I started to fall in love with Ely as well. I realized it was something I needed to do to be here. I needed the whole package. I needed to have a great partner, which I have that great partner. I needed to be in a great community. Ely is that great community. And I needed to have a fabulous job. And I am fortunate enough to have a fabulous job in this community as well. So come January of 2022, I did move to Ely. So I am enjoying my time here. I got here because I took a job at the Ely Williamson Community Hospital. I work in the HR department there. My primary focus is I do all the benefits for our employees, and then I also do the recruiting. I really love the recruiting because not only do I get to meet all the community members, I have to be engaged with the community, I have to be engaged with the members of the community to try to recruit for our hospital. But I also recruit outside of Ely. And the next person who's going to be speaking after me will be a perfect example. And when I sell the recruitment package with the hospital, I have to sell the community as well. I have to not only convince them that the Ely Hospital is the place that they need to be working, but I have to convince them the Ely community is where they need to be living as well. And Ely is such a wonderful, strong, unique community that this community makes my job easy. I have really wonderful stories about people who have moved into this community. We'll have candidates come to the hospital, they'll tour our facility and they get to meet all of our wonderful employees. And they say, are these people really as nice as they seem to be? Because everybody is so welcoming. I'm like, no, honestly, they really are this nice. And I'm like, you think these people are nice? Wait till you meet the entire community. And our employees will go out of their way to make sure that our new employees get acclimated into the community. My coworker, Emily, introduced me to Lacey. So I was telling Emily, I need to meet the community because how am I going to hire great people if I don't know the community? And right away, she's like, you got to meet Lacey. And then after I met Lacey, I'm like, Lacey, of all these people I keep hiring outside the community and I need to get them acclimated to the community. She's like, you got to invite them to our meetings. And it's such a wonderful, I guess I'd like to say love story. Just giving the community members the security and strength they need for their employment within the community. And then also bringing other members into this community and having them fall in love with this community as well. And knowing that I can be a little part of that, it is really a joy. And I'm really so glad to be working here and to be living here. I feel like I've done so much here, but yet there's so much more that I can do here. And I'm really excited to see, what my future holds. And hopefully my goal is to help keep making this community a strong community because I really do enjoy it.
Yeah. So Andy recruited Abby, right? No, but Abby, who the new pharmacist who we met here a month ago. Yeah, and also Aaron Schuler, who runs some kind of fancy machine.
Yeah. Wow, so many faces. This is really new for me and I'm terrified. I'm originally from Iowa. I grew up in a small farming town called Melbourne. We came to Minnesota every year. We have a cabin up on Lake Kitchie. Been in my family for 100 years. So every year we come up, pack up and come up, and I fell in love with Minnesota. So I knew I wanted to move here. Didn't get it done till later in life, but transplanted to Brainerd. Pace there is pretty extreme. So I was searching for something a little quieter, a little friendlier. I found that when I interviewed and toured the hospital. Like she says, people are so welcoming here. It's astonishing the difference from one community to the next. You guys are wonderful. I run an MRI machine at the hospital. I also do X-ray and CT. So you might see me there on occasion. I hope not, but if you need to come get a checkup, I can do that gladly.
I'm talking a million miles an hour. Great. I'm doing great. Thank you. I don't know what else to say other than I'm looking forward to finally moving up here. We have been looking for housing, but as Chief stated, it's hard.
You say we,
Me and my daughter.
your dog.
Yeah, I'm moving up with my daughter.
Dog. Oh,
She's 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is excited to move to Ely as well.
what are your hobbies?
My hobbies are reading and movies, hiking. I like to go for walks, love lakes. So there's an abundance of that here. It's beautiful. I don't know what else to say other than thank you all. It's been so wonderful moving up here and working up here. So
Welcome.
thank you.
I'm gonna call on Paul Kirky to introduce our next presenter. Come on. Come on. Sue couldn't be here, so you gotta do it. Come up here. Bring it with you. This is gonna be the background story from you.
Well, you're right, Alton, it should be from the school.
Yeah.
And Sue tells a very good background story, doesn't she? What she does. Let's get her started. Hi, Zoom folks. Microphone up. So if Sue was here and should be here to tell this story as near as I replicate it. Or she had a bit of a disconnect selling the business a while ago, folks are aware of that. You know, a little gun shy about trying again. But had some contacts with some fine families from Warroad, Minnesota. And so she held off for a while. I'm not sure if she wanted to give a sale another go. But you can decide if you agree with this key piece of the puzzle as a way back when the log cabin next to Wintergreen was part of our complex. Actually, the headquarters, the building, the main store, and the log cabin were all part of the 6-property complex of Wintergreen in the heydays. We had sold the log cabin, and as you may recall, Carrie and Jerry were running Canoe Capital Realty out of that for some years. And then nice segue came along when Carrie and Jerry decided to let that go and asked if we want the log cabin back, which happened to be a nice fit for us at the time. And then it was also the magic ticket to that Sue tells the story to think again about checking with our friends in Warroad if they might still have a hankering to take a look at buying the Wintergreen business, because as he'll share with you, they have a really cool family business in Warroad. It looks like kind of a fun connection for the log cabin that we now retrieved. So that prompted Sue to reconnect with Jackson and Gabriel and their families in Warroad and say, hey, do you want to revisit this thought about buying Wintergreen? And it all came to be. So great connection, great friends. We really enjoyed connecting with them and then visiting their lovely home and workshop up in Warroad. We're really pleased how all this has came to be, and we are doing our best to lure them to town, although they're well connected in Warroad in a big way, and the town's got a lot of heritage and history as well, so can't blame them for the family connection up here. But we'll see if we can reel them in closer to home here. All right.
My story's a lot different than that. My version. So I'm Jackson, and as sad as it is, Sue's not here. My wife, Solveig, wasn't able to make it. We kept trying to make this work, and finally I just had to commit to a date, and then, 16-year-olds and Halloween and Taylor Swift launching a new album, and it's a complex story, but yeah, they couldn't make it. So I grew up in Warroad, so I'm one of the I guess new people to town that came south to Ely, southeast. I didn't lead it over here very much in my childhood. There's, Paul alluded to, I mean, Warroad is in an interesting place in the state as well, right on Lake of the Woods, near El County State Forest, and we've always been getting our wilderness kind of outings in Ontario, Canadian Shield, which is, you know, as Boundary Waters type area, but so having now spending some time over here, it's been awesome. Got each of my kids out to the Boundary Waters this summer individually. That's been fun. Gotten on some dog sled rides. Paul's been really generous about that, and gotten to go out with some others as well. So having the lifetime goods and the, you know, the businesses that really help people get outside and with good equipment, good traditional equipment and materials, it's just been an awesome way to get integrated with Ely and all it has to offer. So that's kind of, I guess, my take on my year. We've got an apartment here. We do a lot of back and forth. Kind of working on our kids a little bit, and every time they're here, they ask a few more questions about the school, or my daughter asks about, is there a hockey team? I thought that was a big step. Asked about that. So yeah, we really have enjoyed our time here. I was maybe a little bit, I was sitting in the back with this, someone else was talking, thinking about my experience actually in Ely, and I should maybe talk about that a little bit. When we came last August officially, you know, it had been a couple of years of getting to know the turkeys and kicking the tires, you know, and building a relationship there before, you know, we decided it was the right thing. You know, it was pandemic, you know, what's going on, and Trump and Biden had just duked it out and all that, and the you know, the mining thing. It's like I got to Ely, I'm like, well, there's a lot of polarizing things going on here. Like, is it being a new business owner in town? That can be very easy, you know. And to my surprise, it was, you know, awesome. You know, every other business owner I've got has only been helpful and interested in what we're doing, and got a lot of little, you know, side projects going all over town. You know, it's just mutually beneficial type stuff. It's been a lot of fun. Everybody I've met, it seems like, you know, always go over for dinner or something like that. Yeah, there isn't that many restaurants open on Monday nights, so. So yeah, I should probably actually talk about this. So I won't talk too long, I guess, but I guess I find myself very interested in the traditional products and high quality lifestyle brands. So that's kind of like I would say where I'm at in my career, and to kind of work backwards from there. Wintergreen is that, of course, and some of you baby boomer type folks understand that retiring is important, you know, to some of you, and I think that what we've been able to do, my brother and I, as my partner and my wife, have been able to step into wintergreen, step into my father's, the business that I grew up with, which is called Northern Toboggan Company. And more recently, we acquired Country Ways, snowshoe.com, and they had been a distributor of ours. So that was kind of like cutting out the middleman. But all three of those businesses are 30 to 40-year-old businesses that are very well established, very well ingrained in the industries that they're in. And that has just been so much fun, because I've learned so much from the mentorships and from the long-standing customers, and just being able to standing on the shoulders of giants type reference and just kind of move things forward. And that's my role as president owner, is to build up the team, help set the direction, help, you know, get the resources that we need, and then all the ugly stuff. I kind of joke with my staff at Wintergreen that now I'm the building maintenance guy, because that's where really the time and energy it needs to be spent at night. But I've got awesome staff there, and as well as at our little toboggan shop up in Warroad, we've got a couple of full-time people, and my dad is helping out there still in his partial retirement. Keeping an eye on things. He just called me this morning that our steamer is leaking, and he had a local welder make it for him 30 years ago. And we're still seam bending oak and ash with that seam box today. So of course, the cost to replace it by the second generation welder in town. $1,000, and my dad told me this morning that he had it made for $100 3 years ago, so there's your inflation curve there. So yeah, that's maybe the disjointed story. A little bit more about myself real quick, I guess. I've got an industrial engineering degree and an MBA, and I do have quite a few years in an engineering career and management, with a lot of which was with Marvin Windows, which is a big manufacturer. That's what brought us back to Warroad. I had left and I went to college and played hockey and got my engineering degree at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. And started an engineering career and a family down there. My wife also from the Warroad area, Augsburg in Minneapolis, and then went and tracked me down. Alabama broke me up. So that's our Cinderella story there. And she is awesome. She's very talented. She runs kind of the back end of the businesses. Make sure the accounting and bookkeeping is done in order for government customer facing stuff, and she has a lot of fun doing that. She's a short Scandinavian big little thing. Reminds me a lot of Sue. I'm describing Sue there too.
And your kids?
Yeah, I've got 3 little rugrats. They used to be. One is 8, Jean-Paul, and he was Paul Bunyan, and I was Big the Blue Ox last night. Got a great picture there for sure. I've got 12-year-old Henry, and he went off the beaten path a bit. He doesn't play hockey in Warroad, which is Hockey Town USA, and watching his dad play hockey, and I'm very proud of him. He's a really good banjo picker, and he reads. We had a meeting at the school because he's reading at above a senior in high school level and trying to keep him engaged and out of trouble in school type thing. So he's just like he just absorbs everything, and he's the VP of sanitation and fun at Wintergreen, and he's a 7th grader. Interesting, fun kid. He follows me around the woods, and we were just at the winter camping symposium a couple weeks ago down in Sturgeon Lake, and that was really neat. Got to talk with more people that like to use the bushcraft stuff and the lifestyle and like to sleep outside in 30 below. Kind of a unique gathering there, but my son really is into stuff like that. That's fun. And then I've got a daughter who's 16. Talked about her. She used to play the fiddle. Okay, I really love bluegrass and folk music, and I thought I was going to have a family band until she dropped off that wagon and got into the pop music. And she's the most talented musician in our family, and she is kind of like not wanting that right now. So maybe she'll come back around. But so yeah, she plays the fiddle, and my son plays the banjo. I do kind of all of the stuff, and my wife is pretty talented in music too. She plays the bass, or she plays the mandolin or the piano. She's got the voice. So anyways, maybe someday that'll come back together. Yeah, there we go. We could play on the. I was thinking we could play on the porch of the cabin. We're in the Ely.
Penn Hill.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a sextet.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the gist of it. Yes. Sure.
Could you share a little about that?
Sure. Well, Warroad, a lot like Ely, has a lot of talented people and businesses and influence. But they kind of got together and said, hey, we can work together to intentionally build our community, and we kind of formed a little business or community leadership group, and we benchmarked all kinds of towns around the country and saw that how some are going like this and some seem to be going like that, and so we kind of looked at what that kind of meant for Warroad and how we can translate some of that. Got some professional assistance, of course, too, in this process. And I think it's really led Warroad down a path of being able to support entrepreneurs and leverage available funding and getting access to that, but to do it collaboratively, so there isn't so many independent things going on. I think that's probably my biggest takeaway. And if people come to town all the time to Warroad and they say, well, I can't believe how, how much has changed in the last few years. But our population has grown. It's just a matter of, I think, just intentionally building with each other. And it did take money, and some, a bit of benefactor type of backing to some extent, which is always important. But just working together and some good leadership there. So I guess that's the gist of it. I see, it seems like Ely has got their act together in supporting, new businesses and growth as well. So I think there's a big issue here with that. It's growing, things are older stuff that's getting turned over or preserved. People want to be here, so all those signs. Great. What answer your question?
What's your Arctic connection?
My Arctic connection? Well, I know a guy named Paul who has explored it. Oh, run it down. So our early toboggan business started with selling toboggans across the northern part of North America. So we call it the toboggan belt. Kind of goes from essentially Alaska, Yukon, up, Colville Lake, big lakes, way up in the northwest, all the way down kind of through Manitoba, where there's woods and traffic. So in Caribou. So that's where that's the heritage of the business. I've been fortunate enough to go and visit some of our long-standing dealerships up there. Yeah, I've gotten to know a little bit how those communities they're trying to keep their young people out of the bars and out on the land and preserving their heritage too. And so we have a little bit of a hand in that, and that's been really neat. And we'll never let go of that. We've got a lot of different kind of fingers in different directions with the business, but that's our connection up there. I just actually this last week spent some time with a couple of the dealers, one in northern Saskatchewan and one up in the Arctic Circle, and talking about snow and talking about the economy or their toboggan orders, essentially what I need from them. But that's been neat. And with wintergreen as well, we've had some conversations with especially in the Nunavut side, the territories, where I think they're recognizing that this is a real thing, clothing, and to have access to that. So we're looking at ways of kind of branching wintergreen more officially through up into northern Canada as well. But so I guess is that kind of what you're thinking, or is it?
I thought it was way cool and all the pandemic, despite the federal people dispensation to run truckloads to the Winnipeg airport, because air freight all across the yard and all through that.
I did, yeah. I went every month. I haven't missed a month, I don't think. The big trailer full of toboggans or Comatic sleds. I don't know if you're familiar with the Comatic sled, but it's more of the Inuit style. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of my friends were like, I'd be like, yeah, I'll be carrying the Tim Hortons cup, or I'd have a bowl sitting in my fridge or something, and then I'd be like, yeah, I just got back from Canada. Like, how do you get to Canada? Toboggans are essential business in Canada. I guess I learned that. So yeah, waved me through as long as I paid my GST, of course, by 5%. That's the main thing you gotta do to get to the border, but yeah, so that's been fun to keep making that connection. I've talked enough. Any other? Oh,
They play hockey in Alabama?
they do. It's the hockey capital of the South. Yeah. Yeah, they played. I played in a division with Bemidji State University, Air Force Academy, Niagara. So there was like a bunch of independent Division I schools that had formed a college conference.
Excellent, Harold. Thanks for bringing all your business expertise, and let us know what we need to do to get you and your family to buy a house here or build a house here. Yeah, and your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well. So Maddie Fedline has been around for a little bit, but never has had a chance to really introduce herself to, retired people and stuff. She knows the young adults. So come up and tell us who you are and why you're here and all
Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie Conline. Geez, I'm not even quite sure where to start, I guess. Thank you, Lacey, for the direction. I guess most of you in this room, if you haven't met me, through my work with the Campaign to Save the Boundary Waters, that's where I work currently. I'm the Northern Regional Organizer, so that's kind of my primary job here in Ely. But just looking back in my life, I had never had a Minnesota connection until I came up here on a Boundary Waters and Quetico trip when I was 15. I was born and raised in Clear Creek County, Colorado. Has anybody been to Clear Creek County, Colorado, or know where that is? A couple of people. I love it. Well, it's just west of Denver, about 45 minutes on the busiest stretch of interstate. So I grew up literally bound to I-70. Anytime you want to go anywhere in that county, you're stuck to a road. And I promise this will make sense later on in this talk, but you know, like just very connected with this road and very connected with tourism specifically. Clear Creek County is huge in tourism. And so, you know, I grew up in Colorado doing a lot of rafting, a lot of hiking, and a lot of outdoor pursuits and endeavors. My parents moved to Colorado from Iowa, Pennsylvania, because they wanted that kind of experience in life for their children. So flash forward a couple of years, 2015, I come up here on a canoe trip with the Northern Lakes Girl Scout canoe base. Oh my gosh, revolutionary experience for me. I never knew the Midwest was so cool. And so that kind of kicked off a lifelong, I'm not that old, I'm only 23, but so far lifelong love for this place in the Boundary Waters and the Quetico and getting up here. So after I went on that trip, back in 2015, 2014, something like that, I came back the next year as a guide in training, and then the next year after that as another guide in training. Then I was a full-time canoe guide for the Girl Scout base, 2017 to 2019. Took a little COVID break in 2020, and then moved up to Ely in May of 2021 after I graduated college. I went to college in Colorado and got a degree in natural resources, recreation, tourism, as well as French, kind of an odd one, and then conservation biology. I'm obligated to include the French thing because that degree was expensive and it deserves to get included when I ran out.
To speak French is amazing.
Merci beaucoup. So when I moved here in March, or I guess May of 2021, I started working for Ely Outfitting Company, so kind of continuing that outfitter trend. And it was really supposed to be temporary. It was kind of a, oh crap, I graduated. What am I supposed to do? Job. Lovely, lovely summer up until the Boundary Waters closed. And then all of a sudden I didn't quite have anything to do. That's when the Campaign to Save the Boundary Waters got more connected to me formally. Since I moved here in 2021, I really have become deeply connected with this community, thinking about like my community back in Colorado is not nearly as community oriented. There's certainly community aspects about it, but having outlets like this and also just a very vibrant young person social scene in Ely, it's incredibly comforting. And also just through my work and connections here, I feel like when I moved to Ely, I just got really welcomed into the community. So many people were just so excited that like people want to move here. And it's just really cool to see how much people just like with open arms want you in the community and invite you to stuff, bring you into the community and have all that stuff that I don't think I would have found in Colorado. And so when I think like, why Ely? Why did I choose to, you know, stick around here after finding gainful employment? I just can't really imagine living anywhere else at this moment in my life. This is such a wonderful place to kind of still be growing up. I'm a young adult. I'm still growing up, certainly. I'm not at the pinnacle of my adulthood, and I certainly hope in the next couple of years I won't be either. But that'd be kind of weird. But I just really like Ely, and I like the people, and I like the place. And, you know, with a tourism background and tourism degree, I love how tourism centric this town is. But I also find it to be a very fascinating place because tourism isn't crippling Ely, at least not yet, not in the same ways that my hometown in Colorado is being crippled by tourism. So it's just one of those places that to me is like so unique, especially as a very tourism centric town. it still has such a distinct community. It isn't just completely overwhelmed by tourism. I think the other thing I really love about Ely is since I moved up here, I haven't gotten stuck in a traffic jam once. And, sure, I complain on traffic on Sheridan Street now, but, thinking back to, what's normally a 30-minute drive to get from my house to my school, where I went to high school, would sometimes be like 4 hours. Thanks to ski traffic and other tourism endeavors heading up the I-70 corridor, as we call it. So this place is just so cool to be nationally recognized and known and beloved by so many people, but to also not have 4 hours of traffic to get from one point in the town to the next point in the town. It's really a lovely place. So I'm excited to continue developing here in Ely and seeing what other community endeavors I find myself in. I feel like I've been really welcomed into a lot of aspects. I am also one of the assistant coaches for the Ely girls track team for the high school and middle school. Just another way this community was like, oh, you're a state champion, 6th place, not really a champion, in discus, throwing things. We want you to come teach our kids how to throw things too. It's really cool. It's really cool when people kind of recognize your talents and see who you are and are just like, oh, you really need to come do this other activity here in Ely. It's just such a cool crowdsourcing town of, you have this knowledge, we want you to come and help us out with this other thing. So thank you all so much. It's super fun to get to know all of you.
Oh.
Okay, I'll let the one. I am currently a volunteer member of the St. Louis County Search and Rescue Squad. Completely unaffiliated with any other work. It's just something that I have been pretty passionate about. Had a couple of tussles in my life out in the wilderness. Certainly the big 2016 storm. I rode that out on a lake just across from Basswood. That was a pretty, tragic experience for people who remember that storm. For people who don't, a couple of folks did end up dying out in the Boundary Waters in 2016 in that blowdown. So I think to me that just kind of sparked a connection between, if you want to recreate outdoors, you also need to know how to stay safe outdoors. So upon moving up here and getting more stable in the community, I decided I would try out for the St. Louis County Search and Rescue Squad, and they added me as a member this summer. And it's been a lot of fun. So if you see a rescue squad truck driving around town, I'm likely behind the wheel. And if I'm not behind the wheel, that's great, because we definitely need more people up here to join the rescue squad, because there's 3 of us. So if anybody wants to join, you should let me know. I would love to get you connected. But then I'm also a board member for the Minnesota Canoe Museum, and that was kind of a connection brought to me by my partner and by other people in the community who were like, well, look, you have a lot of organizing knowledge. Help us with this museum. And so that's a big endeavor we're going to work a lot on this winter. If you haven't been into the museum, it's part of the folk school. They lovingly share their space with us, and it's really awesome. We have a lot of really cool canoes there that are lots of fun to learn about. I personally love canoes, obviously. So it's a lot of fun work too, but we're hoping to kind of get it going more so in the future as we can. All right, any other questions before I can sit down again? Okay, thank you all.